What's up, guys? Welcome in. Whoa, that is way too quiet. I can't hear myself. Hold on. Got to do some adjusting. Welcome, guys. We got a lot to talk about today. It's a Monday, getting things back in action for another great week. And no, the rumors are not true. They're not true. What rumors are those? Well, you're just going to have to figure it out. Let's see. Hold on. Let me do another. I did not see any headlines about Mitch McConnell saying he's stepping away and retiring. In fact, I heard the opposite. Stop spreading fake information. Stop with the fake news, man. Just stop it. All right, coming up on the program today, we got a fun one for a Monday to kick off a brand new week. We have Guy Mitchell. He is an author of multiple books. His latest one, Global Warming, The Great Deception. We'll talk about the politics behind the so-called science. Is there actual science going on? These are the questions.
One minute till broadcast.
Hopefully you guys had a great weekend, man. I enjoyed our Renaissance Festival here in the Kansas area. It was just a one-weekend deal, and it was cold, and it was windy, and I was totally okay with it. If you are on the live streams, then welcome aboard. Like it out, share it out. Let's have some fun. Break those algorithms on social media. Let's do this thing for a Monday.
30 seconds till broadcast.
All right, hang tight. Here we go.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin transmission.
Fighting for freedom every day.
Republicans right now, the conservatives, which unfortunately, this is what we have to do every time, even after a vote where people are sick and tired of the establishment, they're sick and tired of the squeezy, middle-of-the-road, squishy kind of Republican rhinos, and we vote conservatives in, then we have to fight tooth and nail in D.C. to actually be heard within the Republican Party.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Guys, I'm telling you, you really need to stop getting my hopes up here. Stop spreading the crazy information. Stop with that fake news garbage, man.
You are fake news.
Just stop it. You can't be doing that to me. Lead me on, get me all kinds of excited. You cannot tell me that Mitch McConnell is stepping away from the Senate Minority Leader. You cannot tell me these things without getting kind of giddy, because it's not true. At least from what I've been able to find, it's not true. Maybe you've heard something different, but I saw some social media posts throughout the weekend saying Mitch McConnell's on the way out. Mitch McConnell's leaving. You can't do that to me. In fact, he has been out for a while due to a concussion and a rib injury. This is why we can't have nice things. We have old, decrepit guys out there that have been there for way too long and now have to go to the pharmacy within the Capitol to get their pain medications so they can walk around the Capitol grounds again. Like Mitch McConnell, who's back at it again, ready to go as he's back in and ready to take on the job again of trying to be that moderate Republican, trashing conservatives and working with Democrats most of the time. That's how we start this program today. Welcome into it. What's up? Happy Monday. Hopefully you had a wonderful weekend. Back at it again. I feel like I am rested and well recouped. I think. Therefore I am. If I think I am, therefore it must be so, right? Little Voice of Reason, Mrs. Voice of Reason and myself went to the Renaissance Festival here in the hometown of Wichita, Kansas over the weekend, and it was cold, as in it was like 52 degrees with like a 30% wind, or 30-mile-an-hour wind, so that dropped it into the 40s. Then it started raining on us for a while, and it was overcast the entire time. And guess what? We powered through. We walked through our Renaissance Festival for 7 hours on Saturday. Little Voice of Reason was tired, was cold, was extremely cranky and grumpy, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. So, yeah, we had a good time. Welcome into it. We got a lot to get to. Hopefully you had just as wonderful of a weekend as myself. Big show lined up, as usual. Guy Mitchell, he'll be joining us at the bottom of the hour. His latest book, Global Warming, The Great Deception. Makes sense. I just went through a Renaissance Festival in the middle of April, and it was a little bit rainy and a little bit of boom and thunder and kind of cold, and we could call that springtime. I'm going to call it climate change, because it's not global warming anymore. It's now climate change. So, yeah, we'll go with that one. We'll go with that one. So we'll talk about climate change, the Great Deception. Where is that line between science and political agenda? We'll get to that with Guy coming up at the bottom of the hour. Until then, though, man, I got to tell you, I guess, welcome back, Mitch McConnell. I mean, I'm glad you're all right. First and foremost, politics aside, glad everything's okay, just like all the other elected officials that are out. But, man, can you start seeing the piling up of lists of elected officials that are above the 80-year range that are having to be out for medical issues? I'm thinking that we need to start talking about, at least discussing, an idea of implementing some type of age requirement where if you're past 80 years old, you cannot run for re-election again. Can we do something like that, please? Can we just have the prime age of electorship between like 30 and 65? Working age, a little bit above the actual like teenage and 20-year-olds because you're still trying to figure things out, but like between 30 and 65. And if you're past that, if you're past like 70, let's just say, then if you're already in when you turn there, that's cool. You just can't run for re-election because that's when you start seeing the medical issues. You start having problems. You've probably been in office for way too damn long, for like 30 or 40 years anyways, and you've run out of ideas. How much more can you honestly be contributing to the nation? So, Mitch McConnell, glad you're okay. I guess welcome back to be the front runner for the Republican Party. And while there were some social media tweets about how he may be stepping away, according to ABC News during his speech that was real brief about his return and what he plans on doing, he said literally, "It's great to get back. I did this, I did that. I believe people will be inspired to follow in his example, and I'm so excited." He says that he has no intention of actually walking away or doing anything different. So he's not leaving. He's got tons of plans, and there you are. It's let's suffice to say, this wasn't the first time being hard-headed, and it served me very well. Ha, ha, ha. Hardy har, I guess. But Mitch McConnell's back at it this week, and there's not really much more to say about that. Dianne Feinstein's still out with shingles right now. Again, another example, just to put that stamp on, that elected officials, once you start having health problems because you're that old, then you should step aside and let actually people who can show up to work every single day actually do the damn job. It's kind of like in the workforce in the private sector. Nothing against individuals who are a little bit older or have health issues, but if you have constant health issues because you are on the older end, as a business, maybe you start thinking about having someone that's a little bit more reliable show up to work each and every day. Not against them, just as a business, you have to work and be efficient. Everything I just mentioned, throw it out the window. It's the government. We're not talking about efficiencies, so don't worry about it at all. Holy cow. We got a big week lined up because there are a few different holidays. Don't know if you're aware of it, but there's a few big holidays coming up this week. Obviously, Thursday, right? It would be, Thursday. It would be 420, so you can only imagine what that one's going to look like. And if you partake, then all the power to you. We may have to have a conversation about that on Thursday with some states and where they're at with their marijuana legislation. Tomorrow, however, is tax day. Now, I don't know why it's tomorrow instead of, well, technically it was Friday for the 15th because April 15th is tax day, which normally, let's say for your paycheck, I'm pretty sure that if your paycheck lands on a Saturday, many businesses do it on the last business day, which means it would be paid out on Friday. I'm sure the government likes usually doing the same thing again, too. So having tax day delayed a couple of days, kind of interesting. And it all hangs on how much tax revenue the federal government and the Internal Revenue Service is reporting to show you exactly how much longer we have until our debt ceiling officially hits here in the nation. Oh, yes, we're relying on the tax day to decide how much tax revenue we have to continue to pay before we finally hit that deadline and Americans die in the street. According to Yahoo News, the question is of when U.S. could default may come in sharp relief after the Treasury reveals on how big tax day may be, as the political battle over statutory debt ceilings set to amp up, with the Treasury's tax receipts giving a clearer idea of how much cash will be on hand as it approaches the limit to impose by the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling cap to prevent it from borrowing. You're not allowed to borrow anymore. Sorry, your credit card has been maxed out at $31.4 trillion. That's with a T. And what are the Biden administration and the Democrats saying now? Don't worry, just do an infinite raise. We don't need to worry about it. We can spend as much as we want. It will have no impact on inflation. It will have no impact on the economy in any way, shape, or form. Don't worry. These aren't the droids you're looking for. According to the Treasury right now, their cash pile is sitting at more than $200 billion following the tax day that would be strong, while figures of less than $150 billion would be weak. So between $150 to $200 billion would be good on tax day for us to continue to just barely pay our debts and pay a whole bunch of interest on debts because the government doesn't know how to spend within their means. Kevin McCarthy spoke earlier today at the New York Stock Exchange as he was talking about his 100 days in office as Speaker of the House, focusing primarily on the budget.
Our national debt is too high, far too high. And the problem is getting worse, not better. We are now $31 trillion in debt. That's more than the entire economy of America, 20% more. Think for a moment. That is unsustainable. Over the next 10 years, the United States will pay $10.5 trillion just in interest on our debt. Put that in perspective. Since 1940 until today, we have paid $9 trillion of interest on our total debt. Over 83 years, $9 trillion. And now we're going to pay 10.5 and 10.
Imagine, if you will, having a credit card of that many trillions with a T of dollars that you can just spend with just willy-nilly. Just why the heck not? Now, at the same time, they're wondering why the economy is not quite rebounding the way that it was supposed to. If you remember, during the Biden administration's first year or two, as they came out of the COVID-19 pandemic, they were excited about that they were getting all these jobs back, these 6 million jobs then. Now I think they're parading around like 10 million jobs, something weird like that. They are excited that the economy is back on track. Things are back to the way they were, and we need to continue to grow because we've had the best recovery ever, except, of course, from Barack Obama's recovery from the recession. If you remember that one, too, that was the quickest that we've ever had, the best recession recovery that we've ever seen in American history, which to them was, let's inject money, let's create a very large bubble in the economy, and then when it pops, we'll wonder why things are so bad right now, where we're still floating at right around 6.5–7% inflation, and people can't afford to go out and actually buy things at all. According to CNBC, Americans are living paycheck to paycheck at a 58% rate across the nation. That way, I thought the economy was doing good. No. 58% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, according to the latest national study. Between higher costs and a possible recession, families are feeling the pressure, as more than half of Americans are now living paycheck to paycheck, according to that NBC report with CNBC Your Money's Financial Confidence Survey. Even more, 70% of Americans, with a 7-0. Again, that's for the other side, just having a slow time trying to comprehend this concept. They feel stressed about their finances, mostly due to inflation, economic uncertainty, rising interest rates, and high gas prices. Gas prices are slowly creeping up to that $4 a gallon average again across the nation in the slow period. So I wonder what it's going to look like during Memorial Weekend when we want to drive across the country or go camping or do what we do for the summertime. All the family vacations that people have planned as well. Apparently, those aren't going to fare very well when 70% of Americans feel they're stressed about their finances. But don't worry. Federal government, baby, they've got your back. They're taking care of you, and they're getting jobs back in the country. They're getting you back to work because you were going to die when all the COVID-19 social programs ran out. Remember, that was at the end of the month when you now have to start getting the work requirements again to get Medicare or Medicaid, to get Social Security, to get the WIC programs. You had to fall into the requirements just like you did prior to COVID, where you have to prove that you're trying to work, that you have applications out there, that you're doing what you can. During COVID, you didn't have to worry about that. It was just, I don't feel like working. I got let go. I got laid off. I quit my job because I felt uncomfortable And oh, yes, that worked. And you just started getting the paycheck. No longer, my friends. Now you actually have to work for it, and the media has been angry ever since. But with 70% feeling stressed about their finances, that can't look good for the Biden administration, who's parading around that they're bringing jobs back, that they're increasing manufacturing, that they're getting the supply chain back under control, and that they're growing jobs by the rate of 6 to 10 million jobs in this country, right? The greatest we've ever seen, most job growth ever. Which, for an example, let's take that number, which isn't true, but let's just take that for an example. If they say that we've created 10 million jobs in this nation, according to FraserInstitute.org, I was curious on how many of those were government jobs versus private jobs. Would be a common question, right? All right, if we're growing the workforce, where is the workforce going? Is it going hospitality? Is it going truck driving? Is it going labor and manufacturing? Is it going white-collared office jobs? Where are these jobs going? Oh, no. According to Fraser Institute, they found that 86% of all the jobs created post-COVID-19 pandemic are public sector government jobs. Oh, yes. Let me read that again. We find, this according to the findings here, we find that public or government sector accounts for the large majority, 86.7% of all net new jobs created since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, step aside from the 6 to 10 million jobs created. That's a lie. The actual number of job growth that we're seeing in the nation is not the businesses coming back and recovering. It's the government expanding themselves and hiring new public sector workers. Does that make you feel better? Yeah.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Andy Hooser here, reminding you not only can you listen to the Voice of Reason on your favorite radio station, but also check out the video of the program on TV and online. We're excited to be working with our partners over at OpsLens to bring the Voice of Reason live every day on their website at opslens.com, on the OpsLens app that you can download on any of your smartphones, or on any of the OpsLens social media. It's a great network that broadcasts multiple shows promoting truth, reason, and common sense, reaching thousands of viewers every day, all day long. Plus, while you're there, you can always watch some of the best highlights of the show during the weekends or read our latest opinion columns on topical issues of the day. Also, if you want to interact with me during the program, just leave a comment on their social media or the OpsLens app stream. You can always join the live chat rooms, or if it's easier, just email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Again, that's HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. This is your show, and we want to hear from you. Why? Because it's time for you to be your own voice of reason in your own community. Looking for more reason? Well, now you can get even more content from the Voice of Reason through our Patreon site. It's your exclusive membership for being the ultimate Hoosier-holic. On our Patreon, you'll get additional interviews and content that we don't get to air on the radio, behind-the-scenes action from the Hooser Media Network, plus one-on-one video streams where you can catch up with me, guests of the show, and other great Voice of Reason supporters. Plus, you can also support the show by checking out our gear and swag. Find the link on our website at HooserReason.com. Again, that's HooserReason.com. Become the ultimate Hoosier-holic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com.
Think you need a new
Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason, and I want to tell you about my friends over at OpsLens. As you know, they've been a great partner with the program, along with so many other TV, radio, and podcasting programs from all over the country, talking about really anything you want to hear, from current events, Second Amendment, politics, health and lifestyle, and so much more. No matter your interest, OpsLens has a show for you, helping educate, entertain, and battle the mainstream propaganda machine. And you can watch this show along with so many others live on their website, their app, or any of their social media sites. Plus, you can catch up with the latest blogs, articles, and stories from all the different show hosts and contributors. What more could you ask for? And now OpsLens wants to give you the opportunity to stay in the know on any issue going on all around the world without the bias, control, and manipulation from the mainstream media or social media. It's time for you to check out OpsLens Worldview. Don't fall for the one-sided reporting of the mainstream media. It's time for you to learn the truth, which means it's up to you to find the truth, and OpsLens Worldview can help. Sign up for OpsLens Worldview and see articles, blogs, reports, stories, and statements from elected officials or government agencies, along with local news stories and police reports from anywhere in the world on really any topic. Find out what's really going on from multiple sources without the filtered journalism or one-sided reporting. Now you can stay informed on global issues as they happen from the local sources, accessing more than 1.5 million online posts every day with tens of millions of blogs and first-hand accounts, all at your fingertips. Just go to opslens.com and click Worldview and use the promo code VOR10 for a 5-day free trial and 10% off when you sign up. Again, that's VOR10 for 10% off when you sign up for OpsLens Worldview. It's time to take knowledge, truth, and wisdom back into your own hands. And you do it right here with the voice of reason and opslens.com.
Fighting for freedom every day. This is the voice of reason with Andy Hooser.
Can you imagine trying to find the real number of how many jobs were actually created post-COVID-19? Now, that's not including the ones that actually went back to work. The Biden administration tries to lie to create those numbers, be like, we created 10 million jobs. But we know that's not true at all, in any way, shape, or form. So we need to find the real number of actual job growth, like new jobs that weren't there prior to. Then we look at that one, and we look at the numbers showing that 87% of them were actually government jobs. We haven't grown the private sector. We haven't grown the actual money-making industries in this nation. Now, remember, the government doesn't create any wealth in any way, shape, or form. It takes money from it. It's the distribution. It's the socialism. It's the communism. It's the redistribute, take from one person, give to somebody else, because it cannot create its own wealth. The private sector is the big piece of pie that's actually making and creating, baby. It's cranking away with what you do each and every day, going to your work, trying to make a living, trying to put food on the table for your family every single night. But when you grow the government with 87% of all the new jobs going to the government, how the hell are they supposed to make any new wealth? They're getting paid with, and this may be a shocker to the other side of the aisle here, they're being paid with tax money. I know that's a wild concept for some, and they don't understand that. But when you start getting more government workers and not enough private sector workers, pretty soon then you can't pay off the debts because you have more debts going out and not enough coming back in. So while we're dealing with a debt that's $33 trillion, 120% of our GDP right now, we're already spending more than what the private sector can create, and we continue to create more debt at the same time while we're wondering, why can't we actually pay our debts to where we're going to pay $10 trillion in interest alone? What a stupid way to live as a nation. And the Democrats don't see any problem with it. And in fact, they get offended and appalled when we tell them to back off a little bit and cut some of that government spending in some way. There's one other issue I want to talk about real quickly here for those that like to follow the political scene and the electoral scene. I know it's a little early right now with the presidential election of 2024. Obviously, all the focus has been on Donald Trump, a little bit of Ron DeSantis. We hear about Tim Scott possibly throwing his hat in the ring now. We hear about Larry Elder potentially throwing his hat in the ring now, another talk radio host. A lot of potential names that would be really interesting in this presidential race. One, however, made the official announcement over the weekend.
What's trending today?
On our What's Trending story of one of my homeboys right here in the Kansas area where we're based out of for our flagship radio station. He was our former congressman, former CIA director, former Secretary of State under the Trump administration, Mike Pompeo, who's been speculated to potentially throw his hat in the presidential ring. He made his video debut announcement this weekend.
After much consideration and constant prayer, Susan and I have concluded that I will not be a candidate for the presidency of the United States in 2024. This decision is deeply personal, and ultimately we decided that the time is just not right. At each stage of my public service, as a soldier, as a member of Congress, and then as your director of CIA and your Secretary of State, I've been blessed to have the opportunity to advance America in a way that fit the time and the moment. But now is not the time for me to seek elected office.
Very interesting. Mike Pompeo not running for a presidential race in the 2020, which makes sense. I mean, he was under the Trump administration, and he had hinted before that if Donald Trump threw his hat in the ring, that he would not want to run against Donald Trump because, well, they're on the same team. They're trying to work together here. Why split the vote when they had essentially some of the same ideas and the same vision for what the country looks like. So one of them down, Mike Pompeo not throwing his head in the ring. A little bit sad for kind of the hometown feel here in Kansas, as he was a great guy, super smart individual, and he would have been a great candidate. However, totally understand, and hopefully he throws his hat behind a really great candidate, more than likely going to be endorsing Donald Trump in that race. Just speculation. There's no actual hint of that in any way, shape, or form. But one more down. We'll see how that race progresses moving forward. The bitterness is heating up a little bit within the Republican Party. Donald Trump throwing an ad out against Ron DeSantis right now, poking some fun at him. So it's getting interesting. We're a year and a half away, and yet things are already getting there. When we come back, Guy Mitchell will talk about climate change and more right here on The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. You know, when I get off the air every day, the battle for me against limited government censorship and even unfactual content is far from over. That's why now I'm so happy to say that the Hooser Media Network is giving you more opportunity to catch The Voice of Reason along with other great shows and podcasts. It's been a long time in the works, and now you can finally enjoy more great content, services, and topical shows. We're the safe space for alternative talk, information, and ideas that the mainstream media absolutely hates, from holistic and alternative medicine, discussions on religion and spirituality, pure entertainment shows, and of course yours truly with The Voice of Reason. Plus, we offer numerous media services, including helping you set up your own podcast. Become your own voice of reason and bring your expertise to any fun issue or topic. For information on all of our shows, links to podcasts, each show website or social media link, or to find out about everything we do to challenge the mainstream establishment, visit our website at HooserMedia.com. Again, that's HooserMedia.com, the future of media. The Hooser Media Network continues to grow every single day with new shows, new content, and new information as we continue to fight the narrative against the mainstream and give you the alternative view of the world. The Hooser Media Network is home to great TV, radio, and podcasting programs on any topic of any interest, from politics and current events to religion and spirituality, holistic and alternative health, entertainment, motivational speakers, and so much more. And with the Hooser Media Network, you can enjoy great podcast programs like Safe Space with Cheyenne.
So, Hans, how did you come up with doing the illustrations with all of the spiritual talks?
Well, Cheyenne, I've been studying spiritual path ever. I was a young person. I didn't believe what the churches were teaching us, and it was only later when I came across a material like Edgar Cayce when I realized that Christ actually was teaching reincarnation. And that is a very important element. Suddenly, the moment I understood this is a part of the true Christian teachings, suddenly everything makes sense. Why are people sick? Why are people happy? Why are poor, etc.? Suddenly, it makes sense. It's all related to previous lifetimes and our actions is sowing and reaping principle. So this made a lot of sense to me, and I followed it more and more through. And over the years, I've studied many wonderful teachers. And just only 10 years ago, I started to put this into short videos, which I illustrate, because I am an illustrator and writer of children's books mostly, also for all other ages. So I use my gift as an illustrator to show it and how the dots always connect. For me, it helped a lot. If I get some IKEA furniture to put together and have to read how to put it together, I wouldn't understand it. But if they make drawings that this part belongs to this part and this part, then I can do it and then I understand it. And I think other people are very similar, that once you see how everything connects, how karma works, how reincarnation works, and when you visually see it, then suddenly it becomes so much clearer. We can talk about reincarnation, we can talk karma and suicide and so on, but visually seeing how it all works out and how it all connects is a very different story. And they have become very popular over the years. As I said, these videos are totally free. This is not my main line. My main line is still writing and illustrating my books. Mm-hmm. I do this to share this with other people because I remember how when I was young and I was desperately looking for some information on these topics, and there was hardly anything available at that time. Now today we have YouTubes. When I started off, of course today I would take TikTok, but it's difficult to squeeze it into 1 minute, what I have to share usually over 5 to 10 minutes. And so I did this video to reach mostly young people because the attention span is only a few minutes anyway, so I had to make it very short. And I follow Einstein's famous quote that if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you haven't understood it yourself. So I really have to make it very clear to myself that I understand it. And I'm learning through doing this, doing my series. I'm learning, I understand, suddenly this all makes sense. And that's basically what I do. And I share this for free. You have to join, nothing. They're available. I merely offer this. I have zero interest to convince anybody that what I share is right for them or for anybody. I'm only sharing it and I leave it up to you. So I fully respect other people's beliefs that they don't share mine. And I have, as I said, no need. If you don't like it, that's fine with me too. So that's where I come from. And that is the basic story of my videos on lifeexplained.com.
Well, you are doing what you should be doing, because those videos found me and a few of my friends, and it's definitely what I needed to be educated on and the way I needed to be educated. So I appreciate you breaking it down. I know there's the Greg Bradens of the world, right, that are going to teach us about human chromosome 2 and the gamma state and compassion and heart and brain coherence and all of that fun stuff. But I really, really enjoy having it broken down into a very, very, I always say, let me go back to kindergarten. I'm like, let's go back to Sesame Street. Like, take me back there and build me up there. So that was one of my favorite things about finding your videos. So today I did bring you on to talk about the heavy-hitting topic of suicide. And I reached out to you specifically because, of course, I watched your 8-minute video of how you explain it. And I want you to release the suffering of anybody that could potentially come across our episode today.
Listen to all these programs and so much more as we try to bring back knowledge, wisdom, and truth back into the world. And we do that right here with the Hooser Media Network, the future of media.
When Reason Meets Radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Darn right it is. Welcome into it. Boy, covering a lot of ground today for a Monday. Starting off the week right, baby. That's what we do. We just carpe diem all over this place. Welcome into it. By the way, on a personal note, outside of walking around our Renaissance Festival this weekend for 7 hours on Saturday in the 40-degree rain and like 30-mile-an-hour winds. Oh, yes, we did it because we are troopers. And we did it, by the way, in costume. Little voice of reason. She's about ready to turn 9 years old. She was not happy with Daddy at all, but I got her a unicorn blanket, and she wrapped herself around in that the entire time, had a grand old time. Outside of that, then I went home, and I cried a little bit because anybody show of hands on Netflix watched the series The Last Kingdom. It's a show about kind of that medieval type of age, and the Vikings and Uhtred and whatever, this great story. It's based off a book series. Well, they did 5 seasons of it on Netflix, and then they made a movie and to wrap up the entire saga. And I watched the movie and definitely cried a little bit. It was sad. It was sad it's over. But there you go. Now I need to find something new to watch. So any recommendations are highly recommended. You can go to email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Let me know, do I watch The Last Kingdom again for like the 3rd time, or do I watch the Viking series again for like the 4th time? Because, I mean, those are really the 2 best series that are based in that time era. So your thoughts would be well appreciated very much. So let's get into what's trending today. What do you say?
What's trending today?
I wonder if they had global warming back then. That would be interesting. I wonder, well, they had global cooling, which is why it was known as the Dark Ages, because nothing would grow, and it was really a struggle for anything to grow because of the global cooling. Now we have global warming, which they say is really bad, but then they erased it because it wasn't global warming, and now it's just climate change because they don't know what's exactly going on. It's a fascinating topic, and that's what we're going to talk about next here with our next guest. He is the author of the book Global Warming, The Great Deception. Guy Mitchell on the line with us here. Guy, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Andy. Thank you. I hope you are.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Yeah, it's good to have you on the program. It's fascinating how we've gone through this. We went from global cooling to, I remember the study in like the 80s and 90s where it was like acid rain. That was the big thing. Then it turned to global warming. Now it's just climate change because we don't know really what's going on, but whatever it is, we've done it and it's all our fault, right?
Yeah, that appears to be the case. It's interesting. I have a website, the address of which is globalwarmingdeception.com, and I wrote an op-ed on that about when did global warming turned to climate change, and one has to conclude it's several years ago when people figured out that none of the world's temperature databases for the atmosphere, oceans, or landmass depict any warming. So the dilemma is, well, if the data doesn't support the hypothesis, what should we do? And the answer apparently is, well, you change it to, it's not global warming now, it's climate change.
Climate change.
Which is pretty hard to measure because you don't know exactly what the datum is. Where do you start?
It's funny they do that because I remember there was a hearing that Ted Cruz was grilling some of the government scientists about that, and they wouldn't answer the question. They would just repeat the phrase of, we concur with the 99% of scientists that concur about man-made climate change or man-made global warming, whatever they said. And they would never answer anything. They would never actually solve any problems or explain anything. It was just, we concur with the government scientists that were done in a study where only a couple thousand scientists that were on a government database actually did the survey that said they believe in man-made global warming or man-made climate change. But science itself, the experiments, the hypothesis, and then do the experiment and then see whether we're actually right or not, that system of operation is really no more, is it? Especially when it comes to the climate change issue.
Well, the interesting thing about it, and I go to some length to present this in my book, is if one starts at what is the generally accepted principles of science, what's called first principles of science in the relevant fields. In this case, it's thermodynamics, which has to do with heat transfer, spectroscopy, which has to do with the absorption and emission of electromagnetic radiation by matter, and all matter does that has a temperature above 0 degrees Kelvin. And then atmospheric physics and quantum mechanics, which deals with how molecules absorb photons and emit them. What you find out if you look at the science, if you look at the research, which I did too, I spent a year and a half or more reading papers on the subject that were published by scientists who use these first principles of science in the relevant fields. What you find out is that the increase in the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere from 280 parts per million to about 410 parts per million has resulted in a downwelling, that's a radiation directed down toward the Earth, heat value of about 1.7 watts per meter squared. So if you have a 60-watt bulb in a lamp in your den, this is about 1/60th of that, spread out over 1 meter, which is about 9 square feet, and that compares to that 1.7 meters watts per meter squared compares to the typical solar irradiance on a clear summer day near equatorial latitudes of about 1,000 watts per meter squared. So it's de minimis, and that's based on science. I mean, these are actually calculations that research scientists have done using publicly available data that prove that the heat flux that comes back to the Earth from CO2 molecules that absorb 15 micron wavelength infrared radiation is de minimis. It has not. I mean, water vapor is by far and away the most active greenhouse gas.
Yeah.
And of course,
you can't regulate that.
It's hard to link that to man's activity. So it's the biggest scientific fraud in history. That's the conclusion one should draw.
Yeah. Now, the question is why? Why the deception? Why the fraud? Why create this crazy scenario for the fear-based politics? Obviously, I know it's kind of a rhetorical question because the government's obviously getting a lot of power and a lot of money for this mindset. They get to regulate a lot of industry. But is there other reasons? Why in the world would they go down this road?
Well, I think there are. I think there are three. And you have to look at the proponents of this fraudulent hypothesis. And I say fraudulent because if you look at the the temperature database to the atmosphere. The first 8 kilometers of the atmosphere is known as the troposphere. It's available at UAH.temperature.org, really. But they have a plot of the temperature of the lower troposphere for 40 years, and this data is developed by satellites that polar circumnavigate the globe, so it's the most accurate record we have. And for the period 1979 through 1998, the troposphere cooled every year. And that's while the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere increased 25%. So you say, well, I mean, and the UN IPCC, the UN Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, scientists have access to this data. So they've been promoting this fraud now for ever since the IPCC was created, which was around 1988. So you say, why? Well, there's been over $1 trillion spent on climate research, quote unquote, over the last 50 years or so with absolutely nothing to show for it. The models that have been created are computer models which you can't back test them. They can't predict the past, which is the way you validate a predictive model, and they certainly can't forecast the future. Yeah. So when you read the UN published data, this is what they say. They want to transfer wealth from the developed countries to the developing countries under the guise of addressing climate change to impact a socio-economic agenda. And all you need to do is look at what comes out of these climate conferences where they say that the developed nations ought to pay the developing nations reparations for damage done to their countries and economies. The second big proponent of the proponent of this fraudulent hypothesis are global investment firms. They trade carbon credits, carbon offsets, and now these ESG investments. And they stand to have made, Al Gore has, but they stand to make billions of dollars of profit from trading these various vehicles that are all based on a fraudulent hypothesis. And then you have the governments. You have people like Alexandria Cortez, AOC, who says, well, we want to take your gas stoves away, your gas-fired hot water heaters, and probably what will come next will be fireplaces because they burn wood that emits CO2. And then, of course, outside grills, if you got a charcoal grill, if you got a gas grill. Yeah. So it's all about the control for politicians. So those are the motivations and I point that out in my book.
Sure. You're right. It's all about the control. I mean, if we get rid of our our wood-burning stoves and our gas, and then we just get based on the electric, and then we get the redistribution of, well, you use too much electric, so therefore you can't use that anymore. We're going to cut you off. I mean, hey, but she knows what she's talking about, man. I'm telling you. I mean, she's the one that...
I am told this is a garbage disposal.
So that's going for us as well. Guy, we got to take a break here. Can you stick over one more segment with us?
Yeah, buddy.
Awesome. Hang tight here. We'll continue this when we come back here on The Voice of Reason.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Andy Hooser here, reminding you not only can you listen to The Voice of Reason on your favorite radio station, but also check out the video of the program on TV and online. We're excited to be working with our partners over at OpsLens to bring The Voice of Reason live every day on their website at opslens.com, on the OpsLens app that you can download on any of your smartphones, or on any of the OpsLens social media. It's a great network that broadcasts multiple shows promoting truth, reason, and common sense, reaching thousands of viewers every day, all day long. Plus, while you're there, you can always watch some of the best highlights of the show during the weekends or read our latest opinion columns on topical issues of the day. Also, if you want to interact with me during the program, just leave a comment on their social media or the OpsLens app stream. You can always join the live chat rooms, or if it's easier, just email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Again, that's HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. This is your show, and we want to hear from you. Why? Because it's time for you to be your own voice of reason in your own community. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. You want some more reason throughout the day? Well, now it's easier than ever to find. Here's what you do. Check out the website at HooserReason.com. There you can find past shows, links to all of our social media, special features, our monthly blogs, and a heck of a lot more. Plus, make sure to check in frequently as we're constantly working to add more goodies that you'll really enjoy. Also, you can always subscribe and follow our social media sites for bonus content, articles that we use on the show, or maybe some additional rants. Yeah, it's all that and so much more. Check it all out at HooserReason.com. Looking for more reason? Well, now you can get even more content from The Voice of Reason through our Patreon site. It's your exclusive membership for being the ultimate Hoosier-holic. On our Patreon, you'll get additional interviews and content that we don't get to air on the radio, behind-the-scenes action from the Hoosier Media Network, plus one-on-one video streams where you can catch up with me, guests of the show, and other great Voice of Reason supporters. Plus, you can also support the show by checking out our gear and swag. Find the link on our website at HooserReason.com. Again, that's HooserReason.com. Become the ultimate Hoosier-holic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. As we continue to grow as a radio and TV program, we're continuously working behind the scenes to try and bring more common sense and reason to more patriotic Americans all over the country. That's why we're super excited to be working with the OpsLens team to bring you the Voice of Reason every single day. OpsLens is a national online network bringing you incredible content all day from hosts all over the country. And each host brings their own unique experience and expertise to the current events, reaching hundreds of thousands of patriotic Americans daily. Make sure to check out their website at opslens.com. Make sure to download the OpsLens website and follow them on all of these social media sites that you like, so you can watch all their live streaming content, including ours right here with The Voice of Reason. Plus, if you want more of The Voice of Reason, check out our website online at HooserReason.com. There you can listen to the live audio feed of the show every single day. You can read our monthly blog. You can check out our satire infomercials. You can see pictures of what we're doing, upcoming schedule of events, and a heck of a lot more. On the website, you can find our list of radio and TV affiliates in your area. Find our social media links, and while you're there, sign up for our free newsletter. Over the last 2 years, your Voice of Reason newsletter has grown exponentially. It's completely free, and in it we give you your monthly motivation, upcoming civic holidays for the month, a recap from the show from last month, upcoming guests on the program, along with the latest news from our Hoosier Media Network. It's pretty simple. All you got to do is go to the website at HooserReason.com and become the next Hoosier-holic. Finally, follow us on all of our social media sites. With the iron grip control on content from the radical left, unless you follow us, you're not going to be able to see us. It's been an ongoing battle with shadow banning on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where even our own fans are having a hard time finding our content. But the battle isn't over. We'll continue to bring you the best content we can on as many platforms as possible. You can follow us with the handle at Hoosier Reason. No matter what social media site you like to use, you can find us there. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch.tv, Instagram, TikTok, OurFreedomBook.com, Parler, and of course our website at HooserReason.com. Don't miss it while we give you a heads up on some of the events that I may be attending or speaking at, updates of behind-the-scene projects, or just something sarcastic to try and rile up the left. The battle for freedom is real, and we want to be part of that battle, as we want you to be your own voice of reason in your own community. Conservative principles happen at the grassroots level, and that's what we're here to help with. And together, you and I can fight back against this virus that's spreading across the nation that is socialist policy, trying to destroy this country. We can bring us back to some constitutional values, some individual sovereignty, and the right for you to be able to make your own choices when you deem necessary for you, your family, and your community. In a world of fake news and information overload, it's time to bring back some reason, common sense, guidance, and a little bit of wisdom. And that's what we're here to do. This is the Voice of Reason.
Fighting for freedom every day. The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Oh, darn right it is. Reason, common sense, rationale, trying to bring some sanity back into the world. One radio listener at a time. Multiple radio stations all over the place, plus the TV and the streaming, and of course, I don't know, wherever. Podcasting. Make sure to download the podcast. So I never plugged that enough, and we do well with our podcast download. So thank you for that. We appreciate that very, very much. The great deception of the climate change battle. It's funny how we are so gullible. We fell for it, of how the world's ending. We need to do this. Remember the whole Al Gore, the seas will rise by 15, 20 feet, whatever it was. The coastlines will be underwater within 10 years. And, well, that came and passed as of like a couple of years ago, and didn't happen. So now it's the next one, AOC and Greta Thunberg and everybody else, all these other yahoos that are no climate experts in any way, shape, or form. They have now turned this into that political battle, and we need to start pushing back from this one. We're talking with Guy Mitchell, author of the book Global Warming, The Great Deception, which you can find online at globalwarmingdeception.com, and check out everything that he's got going on here with all the great facts. Guys, we talk about the science behind this, which I know that AOC is the expert on the science here, but let's just for a moment, let's pretend that she doesn't know what she's talking about, which is a stretch, I know, but for a second, let's just go here. Is it true that if a supervolcano actually erupts like it has in the past on this Earth, that one eruption of a supervolcano is actually putting more CO2 into the Earth's environment and atmosphere than we've ever created in CO2 production in the history of mankind? Is that true? Because I've heard that story before.
You know, you hear a lot of I would say, allegations or suggestions about what man-made, what anthropogenic emissions are in a year or have been since, the start of the Industrial Revolution in 1870. I've read a lot of estimates about how much CO2 gets emitted into the air when a volcano erupts, and the truth of the matter is that no one knows. But the and one of the, as I point out in my book, one of the difficulties about this is there's no way, since about 99.9% of all the carbon in the atmosphere is carbon-12, that includes both man-made emissions as well as natural emissions. There's no way you can measure and say man has, if the concentration in the atmosphere is increased from 280 parts per million to 410, how much of that is anthropogenic? How much of that's man-made? No one. Not only does no one know, but if you could cut a sample of the atmosphere and look at it, it would all be, carbon-12, which is 12 protons and neutrons in the nucleus, and so there's no way to know.
There's no way to know. Yeah.
But the definitive measure is, you look at the temperature databases of the troposphere, which is first 8 kilometers of the atmosphere, the oceans, and the landmass, which is, that data has been corrupted by NOAA. But if you look at it, what data they report shows a de minimis, like a 0.02 degrees centigrade change per decade. Well, that's 0.002 per year. That's well within the margin of error of these measuring devices. So it's all a fraud. It's a put up. It's they've been manipulating the data. You probably heard about ClimateGate, where the the Hadley Climate Unit in East Anglia, England, was caught. The scientists were caught. Emails were intercepted that proved that they were tampering with the data to try to create the appearance of global warming.
And it goes right back to that concept, like you said, of the control, of the manipulation, making us live in fear to where, hey, you can't turn on your heater or your AC during the winter or summertime because you're harming the environment. We're going to go fly on our private jet, though, to tell somebody else they can't do the same thing, because it's all about that control. Guy, we're out of time, my friend. I love the conversation.
Hey, Andy, I've got one other suggestion, though.
You got 15 seconds. Go for it.
7 Kings must die.
7 Kings.
That played,
yes. Yeah. I watched it over the weekend, and I bawled my eyes out because it's all over. I can't believe it. 7 Kings must die. They need to make another one. Guy, I love it, brother. I appreciate it. Let's get you back on the show again soon.
See you later.
Always a pleasure. There it is. All right, podcast up in a bit. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow for a Tuesday. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. You know, when I get off the air every day, the battle for me against limited government, censorship, and even unfactual content is far from over. That's why now I'm so happy to say that the Hooser Media Network is giving you more opportunity to catch the voice of reason along with other great shows and podcasts. It's been a long time in the works, and now you can finally enjoy more great content, services, and topical shows. We're the safe space for alternative talk, information, and ideas that the mainstream media absolutely hates.